One day yous are going to be here putting flowers and ornaments on the graves of somebody yous have lost. So please stay out and find somewhere else to play.
The shocking ordeal began in Gordon Avenue at 5:30 this morning when a 13-year-old girl was awoken by an intruder
who threatened her with a syringe and forced her from her home and into the family car.
The victim was then driven around the city and attempts made to gain cash from automatic teller machines. Her captor also made ransom demands.
It's also alleged that the man contacted the girl's father, telling him that the girl was being held against her will and asked for a ransom.
After 3 hours, the teenager was freed, forced from the car 15 kilometres away in an Argenton club car park. Police later found the family's vehicle dumped at Bolton Point. 3 items stolen from the girl's home are yet to be found. Police are asking anyone who locates 2 laptop computers and a handbag to contact their nearest police station or Crime Stoppers. Superintendent Shearer believes the abduction was a spur-of-the-moment crime.
And the abduction may not have been the initial motive for entering the home.
Police want to question a 30-year-old man over the incident. He's described as being 183 centimetres tall, thin to medium build with shoulder-length red curly hair.
I think it's important, come forward now, speak to the police so that the inquiry can be advanced one way or another.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
In Newcastle, to secure training facilities for the Jaegers in seasons to come, Netball New South Wales boss Ian Harkness says a change in eligibility rules is on the cards. It relates to the temporary signing of Kiwi master shooter Danica Wipaiti for the Jaegers' remaining 2 games. It wasn't illegal, but could very well be next season as Netball Australia prepares for its annual review of competition rules.
If I judge my colleagues correctly from around the country, they'll certainly be pushing for a tightening of the rules in that area.
Also under review is the coaching position at the Jaegers. That job will be advertised from tomorrow, with current coach Maria Lynch among those in contention. Despite finishing 5th this year, the Jaegers can thank their netball faithful for another title, boasting the biggest crowds in the league.
Both of our teams are the top 2 and have been for years, so the Jaegers are a couple of thousand ahead of the Swifts in 2005.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Morpeth is awash with colour at the moment after Maitland Council chipped in thousands of dollars and design tips for the main street's new banners to promote local events. But now they're up, the council has ordered they be pulled down.
I couldn't believe that someone in council could be so silly and just send out a letter like that. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
But it's the Business Association that's been a little silly, and yes, that is a tea cosy on Trevor's head. It seems they forgot to lodge a development application for the flags, and not all the shop owners appreciated having a bracket and flagpole attached to their restored heritage buildings, and some have complained to council.
If the people had done the right thing in the first place, got approval, we wouldn't be having this situation as it exists now.
The council letter says legal action will follow if the banners remain and that a DA must be lodged. But the controversy hasn't bothered those flocking to the village to see Australia's largest collection of wacky teapots.
We've got 19 coaches booked in over the next 10 days doing tours, and they're just the ones we know of that all come for the Teapot Festival. A wonderful event. And of course the other flag that we've got flying at the moment is for the Jazz Festival, which is on in 4 weeks' time.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
For Hayden Jackson, taking up a scholarship offer with the AIS in Canberra means severing ties with coach of 3 years Donna Proctor, the record showing it's been one successful team.
In April this year at Australian Age Championships, under some difficult conditions, he won a gold medal, and it was, a tough race, and it was a really memorable swim, one that I won't forget.
The 18-year-old, who has a top 10 ranking, trains over 400 and 1500 metres, the latter distance his pet event and possibly his ticket to a Commonwealth Games.
There's 3 spots available. 2 are pretty secure, but there's one that's a bit up in the air, so if I can improve my time, I'll be able to improve my ranking and hopefully get closer to that 3rd spot.
And he'll be keeping the right company to make his mark. Hayden's new coach is Doug Frost, the same man who developed a young Ian Thorpe.
He got him to his world record, and if I can just swim a fraction of how quick Ian swims, I'll be very happy.
Starting his scholarship on Monday, Hayden's every session will be monitored and performance reviewed.
Every time he gets in the pool, he swims a little bit better, and he's made a couple of Australian teams in the last 12 months, so he's well deserving of this scholarship.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
The latest road crash death on the New England Highway at Holcomb Hill has an air of the unbelievable. Just metres from where 4 members of an Armidale family were killed almost 2 years ago, the semi-trailer ploughed into an Armco section of a dividing wall built after the October 2003 deaths to separate traffic using the S-bend. The $1.3 million upgrade unfortunately appears to have contributed to the latest fatality, the truck rolling onto its side and diesel from the ruptured fuel tanks turning the crash scene into an inferno. While the 31-year-old Tamworth truck driver managed to escape the wreckage, attempts to rescue his passenger, an 18-year-old Tamworth woman whose name hasn't been released, failed. Inquiries by Crash Investigation Police and the clean-up of the site closed the stretch for more than 18 hours. Ironically, traffic was diverted along a road corridor currently under consideration for a new $15 million section of the New England to eliminate Holcomb Hill. Local MP and then Federal Transport Minister John Anderson in no doubt 18 months ago that the bends have to go.
I have the same view that the locals and Barry Rose, the Mayor, have, and that is that we ought to just line the thing up properly, go straight through on a completely new alignment, fix it once and for all.
Upper Hunter Mayor Barry Rose is still waiting to see the RTA's plan for the improvements and today called for the authority to get on with the job. Canberra, meantime, has earmarked $9 million this year so the work can start. Gary Blair, NBN News. As the current Newcastle Selling Centre marks 12 months of trade, there was a crowd to see the new Northern auction season underway, amongst it Terrigal Haven Probus Club members. They got to see international interest in the product firsthand, buyers taking their lead from China after the first wool for this Newcastle sale was sold there in a feature auction yesterday.
The market was about 10 to 15 cents dearer yesterday in China.
And the industry wants to build on the Chinese result after its price barometer. The Eastern Market Wool Indicator dipped below 700 cents a kilogram last week. The lowest price in 4 years, coupled with drought-affected fleeces, has even the most upbeat grazier hoping for a change of fortune.
Yeah, if we could get a good season, well, the prices wouldn't be so bad. But having bad seasons and bad prices, it's pretty hard to handle.
And the marketers also want conditions to improve.
So we really need to get rid of those drought-affected wools out of the marketplace. Obviously, this bit of rain we've had is good. We still need more, and get everyone back to their normal microns and produce a quality article.
Selling continues in Newcastle this week with another 5 auctions before the season ends in late February. Gary Blair, NBN News.
A strong breeze across Lake Macquarie doesn't deter Wendy Evans. With the help of volunteers from Sailability, she was in the water today, preparing for October's World Disabled Sailing Championships to be held in southern Italy. The 46-year-old, who's been sailing for the past 8 years, has a host of achievements in her wake, including competing in 3 international regattas, 6 Australian and 7 state titles, and 3 Masters Games. Now she's planning to take on the world again in October as part of an 8-member Australian team.
How are you going to feel when you get out on the water in Italy?
Probably nervous, but I'll be okay. Because I love competing.
Wendy has been training once a week in Sydney for the past couple of months on a slightly larger dinghy that will be used in Italy. Mum and Dad, Nola and Trevor, are her biggest supporters.
Oh, just so proud. We never, ever could have believed that she's doing what she is today. It's just wonderful.
Getting to Italy will be expensive, and a fundraiser on the 2nd of September at the Central Charlestown Leagues Club in Newcastle will help Wendy and her mum pay their way. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Took us about 8 seconds to wreck the car, and it's taken 10 months to rebuild it. And yeah, we've got unfinished business down there.
For the Jets and their soccer-starved Newcastle fans, A-League kickoff is like Christmas, counting every sleep. Defender Jade North, though, received his present early, keeping a spot in the Socceroos squad, but he's yet to work his way into the top 22 to meet the Solomon Islands.
It's going to be tough for the boys that are there now. Can't be any complacency there. So I'm going to be pushing like the other boys, and hopefully get a spot one day.
There were some encouraging signs for coach Richard Money at training this morning. Ante Milicic overcoming a calf muscle strain in time for Game 1.
And it's the best I've felt in 2 months, so if I can keep going this way towards Friday, I should be available.
He looks sharp, he looks ready to play. He's a very experienced striker, and I'm sure he'll be raring to go on Friday.
As far as having players back from injury, the timing couldn't be better.
As long as everyone's sort of over their injuries and Richard's got a full squad to choose from, I think that's the main thing coming into the first game.
A disappointing pre-season cup campaign giving the Jets some much-needed breathing space.
I think things happen for a reason, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. Having the 2 weeks off has probably done us a bit of a favour, really, to be honest.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
I think it might be the first time that Kurt and Danny Badiris and Andrew Johns have played together since round 6 against the Warriors. I think it was first time rounds.
Built in 1887, the Walker Waterworks supplied domestic water to the Lower Hunter until the late 1920s. It's now one of Maitland's greatest tourism assets, a popular spot for picnickers with well-maintained grounds and a breathtaking backdrop.
With the lake and the 80-odd hectares, it's a lovely place to see the kangaroos and the ducks wandering around.
But the Walker Waterworks Trust believes more could be done to put the historic site on the tourist map.
I love it to be an enormous tourism drawcard for the city.
And council staff agree.
Well, in terms of tourism, we see this as being a critical opportunity for the city. It's a huge recreational resource.
The vision for the site, a much-needed ecotourism park with caravans and cabins, plus playing fields.
Our motels have the highest occupancy rate regularly in regional New South Wales. We really have no tourist park for caravanners, and so we have thousands and thousands of caravanners driving past the city every year.
Maitland City Council is now in the final stages of negotiating the purchase of this adjoining dairy property, with a view to integrating the two parcels of land.
When we last visited the North Lakes estate at Cameron Park 4 years ago, the land was bare and families were camping out for days on end to secure their dream block. It's a different story now as rooftops sprawl across the hills and the first shopping centre has been approved for the quickly growing suburb.
The area has had a commercial centre in planning for a long period of time, and now we've got a lot of residences created up there in the North Lakes area, and so to have this focal shopping centre for them to utilise and not have to go further afield for convenience shopping particularly is a great plus for them.
Currently, most people living in Cameron Park do their grocery shopping at nearby Edgeworth or Glendale, but locals will soon have their very own centre, including 9 specialty shops on this land off North Lakes Drive.
Both in the lake and in Newcastle, really the whole western side is extending. We don't have as much coastal land as we'd love to have, or even lakefront land, and so many people are now picking up residence in this location. And because of the undulations, I think, and the hills in the backdrop, it's not such a bad place to live.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
When Olympic sprinter Josh Ross advanced to the semi-final of the men's 100 metres at the IAAF World Championships in Helsinki earlier this month, he joined some elite company. Matt Shervington, Damien Marsh and Paul Narracott are the only other Australians to have accomplished such a feat. Ross also placed 5th in the 4x100 metre relay. Add to that his achievement of taking out the stall gift for the second time and from scratch, and it's easy to see why he's given himself some time off.
It's very mentally and physically draining, so to come back home and just unwind, it feels good, and just to do absolutely nothing.
But the break won't last long. Ross will return to training in just 2 weeks, kick-starting his 6-month preparation for the Commonwealth Games. His success this year has given the sprinter more confidence, and reaching his goal of being one of the fastest 10 men in the world might not be that far away.
I'm happy with it where I am in my career at the moment. It's just the beginning. I keep on improving all the time.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
$175,000 skilled tradespeople are expected to leave their occupations over the next 5 years across Australia. That's why those behind the Australian Technical College believe school-based apprenticeships and training is so important to help tackle the hunters' skills shortage.
Every day you hear stories of companies that can't employ the right staff, of young kids that need some more help to get into apprenticeships. So that's what the Australian Technical Colleges are all about, trying to solve those sorts of issues.
The college, which will cater for about 300 Year 11 and Year 12 students, will be set up at Talara, incorporating the Hunter Valley Training Company's existing premises along with new buildings. There's also plans for additional campuses in Newcastle and Singleton. It's a joint project between the Diocese of Maitland-Newcastle Catholic Schools Office and the Hunter Valley Training Company, and will compete with public and private schools along with Hunter TAFE for senior students. But they say this college will offer a new concept, with normal HSC subjects and 5 trade areas including automotive and commercial cookery.
At the end of the Year 12, the students will graduate with a trade qualification as well as their HSC.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. Yet another life lost on a narrow, winding country road. At 10:30 this morning, police say a 32-year-old P-plate driver from Western, behind the wheel of a red Nissan Pintara, was negotiating a sweeping bend. They believe he lost control in loose gravel on Sawyers Gully Road, a back road which connects Maitland to Western.
Pierced across to the wrong side of the road and collided head-on with the white Camry, which is coming the other direction.
The Camry was being driven by a 43-year-old Singleton woman who suffered serious leg injuries. She was airlifted to the John Hunter Hospital. Her 84-year-old mother, travelling in the passenger seat, died at the scene. The 32-year-old P-plater suffered facial injuries and was transported to Curry Hospital. Police and nearby residents say it's a dangerous stretch of road. A motorcyclist lost his life about 5 years ago, just metres from today's crash.
They do drive very fast down here. I have to get out of my driveway 2 or 3 times a day, and that in itself is quite a task.
The road was closed for most of the day while police investigated the crash scene. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
A motion from Greens councillor Keith Parsons sparked the latest civic commotion. He received majority support from colleagues to oppose the federal government's plans to reform industrial relations. That decision includes a ban on companies that employ workers using Australian workplace agreements from undertaking Newcastle Council projects. It's a move that's put local business offside.
We're disappointed that really they've used the council chambers as a political arena. We see their main charter as running an effective and efficient council, and that's what we think they should be doing.
And it's created a headache for the Lord Mayor. Councillor John Tate today defending the city's industrial relations record, saying council hasn't closed the door to businesses using contracted workers.
It's well known that the union organisations in this area work well together with the community and industry, and our industrial record is second to none.
It's the second time in less than a decade Newcastle councillors have tried to place a ban on doing business with a firm, and the Lord Mayor believes, like Boral in 1997, the AWA ban will fail.
It contravenes the Trade Practices Act to say that we're going to ban contractors from dealing with council, and that part of the motion is clearly not sustainable.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
These massive rigs of pipes and tanks look big enough at the moment, but when all 48 of the giant-sized modules are connected together, they'll form two huge filters which will be attached to Shell oil refineries at Clyde in Sydney and Geelong in Victoria. It's a $35 million project for the Tomago company that's helping Shell meet tougher environmental laws.
Part of the Clean Fields legislation passed by the government 3 years ago required all oil companies producing oil in Australia and supplying into the bowsers to have a lower level of benzene content in their fuel as part of a cleaner environment policy by the Australian government.
Construction of the modules has provided nearly a year's work for 300 tradesmen, and thanks to new projects in the pipeline, the company hopes to keep about 80% of those workers on board even after this job is complete. The next challenge is to get the giant modules to Sydney and Geelong, and that'll be done by barge, similar to another engineering project that left the harbour recently.
We have to pull down the power lines, get police escort, shut down the roads, get it down to the Four Jack shipyard, and then from there it'll be loaded onto barges.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
This is the most contracted players the Pirates have had at full training in weeks. It's a good sign for the club, which had to pull talent from the Hunters to make up numbers for pre-season hit-outs.
For the first time since the start of the pre-season, we're getting big numbers on the court and quality practice sessions.
The squad's been boosted by the return of Geordie Cullen from a calf injury, while Larry Davidson completed his first full training session today with little grief from the corked calf that has kept him out of action for the past month.
I was a bit worried about how it'd feel doing full contact stuff, but yeah, it started out a bit sore, but towards the end it felt really good.
Mitch Selwood is still recovering after dislocating his patella, and NBL giant Jason Everstein continues to struggle with a foot injury. But they're the only two Pirates who won't travel to Cairns tomorrow for this weekend's NBL Blitz tournament. As well as testing the squad's fitness, the Blitz provides a chance for the new imports to finally size up the competition.
Definitely, for Mike and Adele, it'll be their first opportunity to see the cream of Australia's NBL, the top quality players, and to be able to go up and down against them, 2 or 3 times in one weekend. So it'll be a great challenge for them.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
They may not be able to hear the corn popping or the drinks fizzing, but now everyone can understand what's going on in the movie. Greater Union has introduced a new method of projecting captions onto the screen for all its latest release films.
It gives us a chance to come to the movies and really see what everyone's talking about. Before, we had absolutely no idea, and when you can't hear, you tend to make up your own thoughts about what the story's about. It's not going to happen anymore. We know everything that's going on.
8 of the company's cinemas across Australia now have captioning, including Glendale in Newcastle and Maroochydore in Queensland. Previously, only some older release films carried a script, but the new text projection method means latest release films can now be shown with the words.
Before this, I hadn't been to the movies for 25 years, so it's really wonderful to be part of the people that can go to the movies again and enjoy everything that's going on.
3 sessions every week are now offered with captions. Paul Lobb, NBN News. "810 hectares of bushland bounded by the Pacific Highway, 6 Mile Road and New Line Road is the area that's been under investigation for the past 3 years for the proposed Kings Hill residential development.
Council has been working closely with the developer on this project, and it's taken a long time to get to this stage, but we're just in the process of finalising a few outstanding points, and then we'll be able to go to the next stage.
Mondale Property Group and the Morgan and Banks Partnership are reportedly behind the project. The bushland would make way for a staged development over 20 years of 4,500 houses to cater for a population of 10,500. Port Stephens Council believes the state government will get its first look at the proposal in the near future.
Once we go to Infrastructure and Planning and Natural Resources, they will have a look at that and they'll make a decision on whether we can go to public exhibition.
Meanwhile, the public is getting a first look from this week at the concept for the Sweetwater township between Branxton and North Rothbury. Over the next 10 days, residents of Singleton, Maitland, Greta, Cessnock and Branxton can assess the idea of housing 90,000 residents on the 2,000 hectare site. Gary Blair, NBN News.
If anyone needed an example of the jet's intensity, today's 2-hour training session provided plenty of proof. It was a match review of their season opener that followed, but no one needed reminding of their performance after a stinging assessment post-match by their coach, and most thought he was right on the money.
Basically, it gives a bit of a roasting, to be honest, and fully deserved, I think. Yeah, he set us straight on what he thinks is acceptable, and that performance definitely wasn't acceptable.
In saying that, Newcastle only lost 1-0 in a game where both their strikers showed the effects of an injury-plagued pre-season. They'll be better for the run, no doubt, but the coach won't accept another team effort like the first.
They know that they didn't perform on the night, and let's hope it was a bit of a smack on the wrist and a kick up the arse for everybody.
It took only one half of football for the coach to see where the captain is best suited, with Ned Zellich's role to begin at the back after toying with a midfield role.
I'm as well aware as everybody else that we've got to get a shape and a system that suits the players, and probably having Ned around the back suits the majority of the group.
Newcastle plays the Central Coast this Sunday, a game that can't come quick enough for Jets players.
When a young Alfstone headed off to World War II, little did he know how it would affect his future. Captured by the Germans in Greece in 1941, he spent 4 years as a prisoner of war in Austria. And that's where Alfstone saw the benefits of work done by the Red Cross, and it began an association which now spans 7 decades.
It's not only food parcels going out to working parties, it was what was coming in as medical supplies, which was the main thing. So when I came home, I only had a push bike, and I used to go around riding around. Any German POW, Australian that was a German POW, I'd ask them for £20 in those days.
Among his fundraising efforts while in captivity, there's mock running of the Melbourne Cup, which raised £25,000 sterling. Alf's about to turn 87 and continues to help the organisation, but today it was Red Cross calling on him to say thanks for all that fundraising.
But I think this is actually 63 years. This is the culmination of it, is this certificate that you've given me today. Thank you very much. Yes.
And the Red Cross hopes Alf's devotion can inspire others to volunteer some of their time.
Alf is certainly one of our true living legends in the Hunter region for Red Cross. He goes out of his way to assist Red Cross in times of Red Cross calling.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Equal First will play last in the final competition round, and it's a game that has top billing. It's an odd situation to say the least, but then again, Newcastle has never been fighting to miss finishing last either. One of the form sides in recent weeks, Newcastle plays an equally red-hot Dragons on Sunday to avoid the wooden spoon, but need the Sharks to do them one big favour against South Sydney the night before.
It was probably good that we had the Sharks obviously last week and got a good win up against them, so they'll be having a big week at training and hopefully they're going to fire up and get the Rabbits.
It'll be Andrew John's last game before flying out to take up his stint with English club Warrington, but no matter where he goes, the skipper has declared he'll play with no one better than Danny Badiris. A huge rap and one that doesn't sit all that comfortably with the modest test rake.
To have him say that, he's he'll go down as an immortal of the game, and it's just a pleasure and being able to play with him.
Basketball and the Hunter Pirates injury curse has struck again, this time to import Odell Bradley, who's expected to miss at least a month of game time after injuring his ankle in a pre-season tournament at Cairns at the weekend. And Curry's Casey Stoner has finished third at the World 250cc Grand Prix in the Czech Republic. Starting from the front row, he drifted back to sixth before fighting to step on the podium and stay in second place overall for the championship.
Meet Ray. He's the lone survivor of a spate of koala deaths on the roads this year in Port Stephens. The cuddly creature lucky to be alive after he was left to die on the side of the road. 4 koalas have been killed in the past 21 days, with the Hunter Koala Preservation Society calling for drivers to slow down.
We're asking people to be very, very careful driving down through habitat areas. If you see the trees, you often see the signs there to take care of the koalas here. Drive carefully. Warmer weather and the beginning of the koala breeding season has seen more koalas on the move, resulting in more tragic accidents. It's breeding season, the koalas on the ground. They're looking for companionship. And while Ray's survival may be one of a kind this year, his devoted carers say all the effort is worth it. Even if you just save one out of those road hits, it's something.
Joe Brooks found this shellfish specimen at Rathmines. In all, he's collected 8.
They call it razor fish because they do look like a razor knife, for cutting bread and that.
Thankfully, they're not quite as sharp, but they can still cause a nasty injury.
The danger is the children walking along and they'll walk on them, because even adults at high tide or medium tide, you don't see them.
The low tides have revealed the potential marine menace, now turning up in northern parts of the lake where they've never before been seen. The Department of Fisheries says razorfish are native to the area, but over the past few years their numbers have vastly increased in the lake. They're now found right throughout the waterway. The lake's creeping shoreline has also exposed weed and given some boats an extra airing.
We've had such lack of rain over the past 4 to 6 weeks, so the tides are staying a little bit lower. And also with the weather patterns, we've got these strong high pressure systems above, and it just doesn't quite allow as much tidal flow into the lake.
That will change, of course, as the weather does. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
Taking out Best Senior Hairdresser at the prestigious IHS Hairdressing Awards, Lee Nesbitt is considered a cut above the rest. Competing against more than 500 hairdressers, the Novocastrian finished with the highest overall point score to clinch the esteemed title.
To have won yesterday is just the best achievement that I've ever felt. It's great.
Born into a hairdressing family, Lee has been attending competitions from an early age.
I've been going to them for about, 10 or 15 years, so I'm competing now against people that I've been watching for that amount of time.
The win has seen the 24-year-old recognised by the very people who inspired him.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The type of people that have been congratulating me, I just never thought would.
Back in his Newcastle salon, Lee attributes his coup to the right style and a dedicated team of professionals.
The training we've put into it leading up to this has just been so intense that we're all better hairdressers from it.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News. When a serious fall at Broadmeadow prematurely ended his promising career as a jockey, Alan Abrahams didn't give up. With a broken pelvis and bruising, Abrahams faced 18 months out of the saddle, but his love of horses meant an early retirement from the sport was out of the question. When NBN visited the then 38-year-old jockey in hospital, he had this to say.
I've had a lot of them, and it's part of the game. It's like if you have a car accident, you don't say, I can't drive no more. It's just one of those things. It's unfortunate, but it can happen.
In a cruel twist of fate, it was a car accident that claimed his life. Abrahams, who had been working as a trainer, was killed instantly when his BMW collided with a truck on the Pacific Highway yesterday. Those in the racing community today described him as a well-liked man whose recovery inspired many.
He was making a great fist of his new career as a trainer, and to have him taken from us so suddenly is an absolute tragedy.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
It might be a shock, but this is how the Hunter River's native vegetation has been overgrown and strangled by weeds. Damage being addressed by Conservation Volunteers Australia and the River Paramedic Program.
By Singleton Council and Coal and Allied, and what we're doing is we're just looking after the virtually repairing the riparian zone from the river frontage up to the riverbank.
Balloon vine, which is ready to drop more seeds, is being targeted by volunteers who were spearheaded by international students like Frenchwoman Anne-Emilia Collard.
Because I wanted to discover Australia, and I thought it was a good way to visit the country.
And these young ladies would appreciate some Australian help.
A bit of muscle down here, clearing a bit out so we can make a space for the natives that we're going to plant.
Planting 30,000 seedlings, including river red gums, has proven challenging after thieves recently raided one of the Singleton restoration sites.
Hard work putting them in, watered them by hand, and then on the weekend someone came around and ripped out about 150.
The river paramedics are this week working in Singleton and Maitland. To join them, call Conservation Volunteers. Gary Blair, NBN News.
The roll-up was disappointing, but the passion of those present almost made up for it. The Link or Sink group has been pursuing the F3 to Branxton link for 4.5 years. Frustratingly, though, not a sod has been turned. Today, an opportunity to urge the state and federal governments to guarantee funding and confirm how soon the project will become a reality.
The feds are saying the state's slow, the state's saying that we haven't got the money, and it's up to the feds to fund it.
While the federal government has allocated $253 million to the project, the original cost estimate of $382 million is expected to have blown out significantly, perhaps as high as $700 million.
Commonwealth only has $240 or $50 million on the table. It's simply not enough.
In fact, since 2001, the cost of 1 kilometre of dual carriageway has increased from $8.7 million to more than $15 million.
Anyone who drives between Newcastle and the Upper Hunter on a daily basis knows how bad that road is, and of course how dangerous it is.
Federal Roads Minister Jim Lloyd today said that Canberra's commitment to the project remains strong, but wouldn't confirm when work on the project will begin, saying that that's an issue for the state government.
This is not your average fundraiser nor your average social golf day. It's the Black Coal Cup, Upper Hunter Industries' serious day of rescue helicopter support that in recent years has already raised $250,000.
After what we've been able to raise for the service over the last 4 years, I'm pretty confident we'll go past the $100,000 mark this year, so it's a great effort by the whole community.
194 golfers took to the course, and there would be more if they could be accommodated. Some contributed toward today's $100,000 plus target at the new Cup pre-event, the Black Coal Ball,
which we held a couple of weeks ago, and that event on its own raised $20,000.
Off the fairways, school pupils got to meet Knights players Daniel Abraham and Dane Campbell. And even though this may not be their usual aircraft, senior rescue helicopter personnel were there to explain their work and the importance of the Upper Hunters' financial support.
Today is a perfect example. The community get behind their service. It is their service, and we're only able to provide the service that we do due to the generosity of the community that look after us.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
After playing every game last year, this season has barely got going for Kurt Gidley, and now it's coming to an end. What a way to finish though, fighting to avoid last place against joint leaders the Dragons and marking Test pivot Trent Barrett.
Australian 5'8", New South Wales sort of thing, so he's someone I look up to who's been there and done it all, so obviously got a lot of respect for him.
The Knights have earned plenty of their own of late and want to round out their season the right way, regardless of the wooden spoon battle. Sunday's result against a premiership favourite may provide a real indication of just where they could have finished.
I guess we're looking forward to Sunday as much as they are to see where we sit.
It's an interesting way for Craig Smith to finish the year against his old club and two best front rowers in the state.
Probably one of the better forward packs in the competition going around. Personal note for me, good challenge, and for our young guys to step up to the mark again, which they have been doing all year.
Daniel Toller is one of those, but he's already had a win. By finally scoring his first try of the year, he's avoided some post-season festivity.
Yeah, definitely. Save yourself a run on Monday.
Although naming an unchanged lineup for the last match, the coach will consider those pressing for a return, but
I think they understand that the guys have been doing a good job that have been in the team.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Northern New South Wales Soccer Federation's Night of Nights, and while Western won't feature in this year's title decider, several players were still recognised for strong seasons. Rookie of the Year went to Jobin Stevens, while Player of the Year was awarded to teammate James Money. A late signing by the Bears, he was worth the wait with some eye-catching performances. It was another big year though for the Broadmeadow Magic. Winners of the club championship, they also finished with the minor premiership, and last night fellow coaches voted Damien Smith the best of the lot. His second such honour in just 4 years, Smith is now hoping for back-to-back grand final wins this weekend as the perfect way to round out the season against South Cardiff.
Well, excited getting the minor premiership. Obviously we didn't expect it, but to be in the big one this weekend, it's a massive game for us, and we can't wait.
At 23, Regan Tanner is finally starting to feel at home in the top grade. And why not? Sunday's match will be his 26th straight game this season. While feeling the rigours of week-to-week football, the Curry Junior would be happy to keep going for a while yet.
I think the mind being my first full season, I'm kind of jumping out of my skin, but I think I do need a rest.
Centre George Carmont has had 3 weeks of that in terms of game time, but is likely to come into the 17-man squad for Sunday. Showing signs he's over an ankle problem, he knows a good performance against the likes of Mark Gasnier would only impress Kiwi selectors.
Yeah, it would, and I said, I'll just have to play my best if I get the chance and, just finish the season on a high.
The Dragons come off the bye, but no Sunday's match will be more like the post-season action they're planning for.
I said they're playing better than most of the teams in the top 8, so it's going to be a good challenge for us.
There's no doubting the 2002 ban on commercial fishing in Lake Macquarie improved recreational anglers' chances of snagging a beauty. Now these concrete domes or reef balls will be used in a trial aimed at further increasing fish stocks. They'll be installed off Galgabba Point at Swansea to form an artificial reef system.
These reefs have been put in force over in the United States for some time and have been proven to increase fish stocks and fish sizes.
The concrete balls will be dropped on the sand bed in 6 sections about 300 metres from the shore. Each group will be made up of about 30 balls which weigh around 80 kilograms each. The pilot program has won the praise of fishermen who are pleased to finally be getting some value from the fishing licence fee.
This money's been generated, it's been put to good use, and these reefs are something that's been needed in Lake Macquarie for some time.
The money's coming from the fishermen to the trust back into the fishery.
The reef is expected to be installed by Christmas. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
Superintendent Shearer is no stranger to challenge, becoming the first woman appointed to head the Newcastle Command 13 months ago. And at just 42 years of age, the born and bred Novocastrian is about to embark on her toughest assignment as an Assistant Commissioner.
It's like a little bit of a love-hate sort of thing, because I love it here and I'm going to be really sad to go.
Superintendent Shearer will swap these views for an office in Parramatta, where she'll take charge of police legal services.
If you can imagine a very big legal practice with lots of diversity, that's what my role is, but really feeding into a lot of strategy about where New South Wales Police sits and where it goes to the future.
While her replacement hasn't been named, Superintendent Shearer says she hopes her successor will continue the momentum of the past year.
We've really set a pretty cracking pace. The bar has been lifted and the cops have really stood up.
Colleen West, NBN News.
I think the amendments are really just a device. They're not material, they don't change the nature of the development, and they suggest nothing that would change our opposition to the development.
Movement of residents in and out of this facility have been cancelled, infection control, using gloves and face masks and so forth.
It's not the death knell for Surffest, but it's a significant setback all the same. Energy Australia no longer backing the event after a 12-year relationship. It was a deal worth $130,000 per year. Official Warren Smith has a self-imposed deadline of November to fill the financial gap.
What we have is the prize money is over $100,000, a sanction fee to the ASP for putting on the event, which is over $10,000.
Cuts to the budget threatens to lower the competition's rating and impact on the quality of surfer at the tournament. Newcastle City Council is among Surffest's other corporate partners, its contribution worth $20,000.
We sponsor the High School Challenge, which is an event that's run for girls and boys, and we're the sole sponsor of that event, and that will certainly be continuing.
In a statement, Energy Australia says it was an amicable split, but felt it was time to make way for a larger sponsorship commitment. For organisers, the chance would be a fine thing. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
The landmark Morpeth Timber Truss Bridge was built in 1897 and in its early years catered mainly for the horse and cart. But now with a population expansion north of Maitland, it's become a major thoroughfare, not only for residents but also for trucks.
Well, from time to time we'll see BW trucks go across, enormous gravel trucks coming from quarries, and this bridge was never ever built for those sorts of vehicles.
Surprisingly, there isn't a load limit for the historic bridge and the RTA has no plans for one.
Obviously, from time to time, overloaded vehicles come across the bridge and there is major stress put on the bridge, which results in these enormous repairs and very costly repairs.
The RTA's been working on the bridge on and off for many years and just one lane's been open for the last 4 weeks.
I live at Hinton. It's a major nuisance.
And the traffic problems are expected to be a nightmare during the Morpeth Jazz Festival from September 9. Maintenance work will continue with alternating traffic flow across the bridge, despite an extra 25,000 people converging on the village.
I mean, it's a bit of a bottomless pit. Where do they stop throwing money at it, you know? It's time they did something about it other than just maintaining.
And the planned third Hunter River crossing at East Mayland will only form part of a long-term solution for motorists living northwest of Morpeth. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Hopefully it'll be like 3 to 4 weeks or whatever. They've been saying 6 weeks though, but every time somebody says something, I always make it a shorter time though off end.
Well, everybody's named us the underdogs from the start. It's a bit unusual for us to be the favourites, but we'll take every game as it comes.
At a great battle, the old horse, he's fighting back. Corral Boy gets the money. Corral Boy beat Iron Gale, Dancing Daggers, and then Imperial Miles. Monsoon Sunrise followed home then by Square One. A length Wicked Wizard, second last Dracan, and Silent Impact Absolute.